Hello and welcome to Bloodhammer. My name's Dean.
I'm Dan.
And today we want to talk to you about why we love the Necrons, or the Necron tier, or Terminators.
Yeah, basically. We are big fans of the Necrons. I know I kind of got into them through listening to the Warhammer podcast, because the first Warhammer podcast I ever did pretty much was on the War in Heaven. And I got super interested in them, and just recently I've finished The Infinite and the Divine, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Great book. They're really cool. They have a super cool backstory. There's a lot of really awesome characters in there as well, and they've been around for so long that they're just really cool characters.
And they've been around that long. They are champions of the Undisputed Catnap.
They are. I mean,
Lionel Johnson, you've got something to learn.
60 million years asleep. I mean, it is pretty impressive.
Does sound like a damn good nap, to be fair.
Do that right now, I'm not going to lie to you. But we're going to tell you a little bit more about them in this video. So who are the Necrons? The Necrons were known as the Necron tier 65 million years before any of Horus's heresies or robots and girly men. There was the Necron tier. The Necrons had a pretty miserable life. I think it's pretty well agreed that their life was pretty shit.
I mean, we all grow up with like people hating us and our own animals hating us, but like these dudes grow up with their own son hating them. It's like, you want to live? No. Yeah. I'm going to give you cancer and you're going to die. Yeah, painfully.
They had a life expectancy of, I think it's around 30. That it said, and some did live longer. I mean, in The Infinite and the Divine, which again we will come on to, it is mentioned that Trazyn was quite old, but in terms of what age he was for old before the biotransference,
with cancer ravishing his body, could have been 35 with the appearance of a 70-80-year-old.
But it was in their DNA. They were ravaged in their DNA with cancer, with disease, not even when they went to other planets, because they did eventually spread out throughout the universe, went to a lot of other planets. It didn't matter. They were still afflicted with diseases, with cancer, with low life expectancy. And in this time, 65 million years ago, gods were real. They had the old ones, these infinitely powerful beings that were infinite and alive, and some would almost say divine, maybe, if you could turn that into a book.
Some might also say toads.
Yes, but they were kind of dickheads. They could clearly see the Necrons were dying and were miserable, and the Necron tier went to them and they said, you know, please share with us some of your infinite wisdom about immortal life. And they basically said, go yourself. And so they did. And the Necrons, like many a person who has been neglected by the person they love, went looking for love in other places. And unfortunately,
they went to war with them, though.
Yeah,
they started a bit of a war.
They did start war.
We're not too good at this.
No.
And then one day, someone went, "I'm gonna just do what Mummy's always told me not to look at the sun. I'm gonna look at the sun." And while looking at the sun, wondered why was there a shape in there that looked like he was having a bit of fiesta.
Yep.
And it turned out that there was something that basically looked at the sun and went, "I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna eat you so good."
And it was the Catan. And there is many Catan. We're not going to get into all of them, to be fair, because there is quite a lot of them. But the Catan were other very old gods as well. And the Necron tier went to the Catan. The Catan, I've obviously told them they were going to give them all this stuff.
You want infinite life? Of course. Of course.
I'll give it to you.
We're not going to do anything against you for that at all.
Yes, I definitely won't be nicknamed the Deceiver, the Deceiver said. But they basically...
That's just what my friends call me. I haven't got any friends. That's an irrelevance.
They wanted more life. They were a miserable race that had low life expectancies, riddled with diseases, and yet they were so technologically advanced. It's crazy.
They found a way that if they had sublight engines, and they would take hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of years to travel between solar systems, and they just sleep between it.
Yep.
So the cancer and everything didn't affect the body. It's basically cryogenically frozen.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously well ahead of
even
else.
humans, I don't think have truly figured that out.
No,
yet.
we can't even do that in the current.
No, they haven't figured that out yet. But the Necrons were the Necron tier. Sorry, I keep saying the Necrons, but the Necron tier was so advanced, realistically for what they were, that it's insane. You know, they conquered most of the galaxy while being irradiated as shit and dying. and they went to the Catan wanting that life. And the Catan, realizing that they had billions upon billions upon billions of potential souls that they could eat instead of eating stars, went, this is quite a coincidence. I was also hungry, and started...
Let me just tie my napkin on while we're talking.
Yeah, they basically lied to the Necrons here. They told them they were going to give them infinite life, and they did.
Technically, they didn't lie.
They technically didn't lie.
Got what they
but they
wanted.
technically didn't tell them all the truth. And
I will give you infinite life, but I'm going to eat your soul.
Yeah. And the Necrons here had developed living metal. It's what they used to give the Catan bodies, because the Catan were just kind of ethereal, and then they made the living metal, which allowed them to take shape, to take form, to take power. The Catan then kind of flipped that on them, fed them into biotransference, giant machines, biofurnaces, giant machines that basically chewed up the pulp, ripped out the soul, and plugged them into a new, beautiful little metal body.
Now, there are even stories where they'll have snippets of what you could probably class as the royalty of the Necron tier, and the most important people as they were being dragged down, so a lot of the time unwillingly, into the biofurnaces. That the Catan themselves were just above the biofurnacing, feasting on what was coming out. Yep. It was like a never-ending banquet, because Cesaric, the Silent King, as he eventually became known, made it a decree. It doesn't matter if you're man, woman, child, if you are prime minister, president, prince, king, don't care. In the oven, get in there and get cooking.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we've talked about the Infinite and the Divine a few times, because it is a fantastic book. Brilliant. But it is mentioned multiple times, and spoiler warning, that's not really a spoiler to be fair, but it's mentioned multiple times that Oricon was physically dragged there. Like, he went into hiding, they found him, they bound him in chains, dragged his ass to the furnace, and threw him the fuck in.
And that's how serious this was taken. Like, it was actually what would eventually become known as the Necrons, the living metal robots as we know them, that was out hunting for people that didn't make it, and people that would collapse exhausted in the queue to go biotransfer were just dragged and thrown in there anyway. It was, for all intents and purposes, like, joking aside, it's pretty damn brutal. Yeah. Even if for Warhammer standards, it's pretty damn brutal.
It is pretty brutal. And they spent, I think essentially in the books it says that they spent about 5 million years doing the bidding of the Catan as these living metal, undead, unfeeling. For the most part, if you're like nobility, or you are somebody like Trazyn or Oricon, or, you know, the Stormlord, where, you know, you're somebody of importance, you still kind of have your sanity together. If you're just like a warrior, you're just a metal shell. Like, there's nothing left of you there.
The best way to think about it, you could say the upper echelons of our society, think of like your prime ministers, your presidents, royalty in our world, they would still have a semblance of thought, of will about them.
They have a willpower.
The standard tiddly peeps and plebeians like us would just be the most standard Necron soldiers that would just stand there with our gas rifles, waiting to be told who to go and shoot, and turn into green packs of spowder, and then just to carry on standing around waiting for the next order again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They spent 5 million years basically as slaves to Catan, after already having their souls devoured by these guys, and then eventually rose up into the war in heaven. And I mean, they'd already been used by the Catan to kill the old ones at this point. I mean, we've skipped over that a tiny bit, but they were used by the Catan to basically kill the old ones, and the Necrons were very effective at that. And the old ones, in trying to find things that could combat the Necrons, seeded life on different worlds, creating the Krorks, because it wasn't the Orcs at the time, was it? It was the Krorks. Yeah. The Eldari were also made by the old ones, and humanity, we were also made by the old ones, to make beings that could potentially fight back against these. And to be fair, the Eldari did give it a good go. They are like, until they went and Slanesh themselves into a corner, they were the most dominating thing.
Woohoo, orgies for everyone.
Yes, in the universe. And the Orcs, or the Krorks back then, were much larger, much more intelligent than what they are now.
The average side Krork was about the size of a Primarch.
Yeah, they were
just to
humongous.
give you an idea of how big.
Look up some art of them online. They are ginormous.
Yeah.
I've seen some really cool
If
art.
you've ever seen any artwork of Gaskull, every single Krork was the size of Gaskull.
Yeah, and they were very intelligent
He
as well.
is a monster. I love the guy, but he is a monster.
But you leave them for 60 million years, and you end up with orcs, as much as we love them. But eventually, the Necrons went and fought the Catan, and finally went, "You, we're taking our things back." And they managed to
decided enough is enough, and a little bit of a rebellion happened.
And it was a long rebellion. I mean, they were fighting for, I think it stated as well, it was like millions of years that they were fighting. But they eventually managed to, they couldn't kill the Catan because they are gods, they're ethereal beings, you couldn't really kill them. But they broke them down into small shards that they then used to power things, power their cities, power weapons. After they'd done this, you know, again, we skipped over a load of stuff, but go listen to like I said, Warhammer before, because they've got like a 3-hour episode on the War in Heaven. After they'd done all that, they were kind of beat up. They'd spent a long ass time warring. They fought the old ones and lost. Then they got the biotransference. Then they fought the old ones again. Then they fought the Catan. They were kind of done at this point. And the Eldari, in the meantime, had been rising up. They'd been coming to power, massively on the ascension. And they knew they couldn't take them. They were very warp-attuned, they had powers, they had very advanced technology. So they decided to go for, like Dean said, a very long catnap. And they made stasis crypts on thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of worlds. Buried themselves deep underground in big pyramids, very much like kind of Egyptian ideology. Yeah, which is weird because they have it, and also the Thousand Sons have it.
They were very much of a death cult, you could almost say.
Yeah.
They valued death. They worshipped it, for want of a better phrase. Everything about them was, we're just going to build a tomb. Hence why in the current setting of 40k, some of the Necron planets are still known even now as tomb worlds. Yeah. And it's basically where dynasties, as the Necrons and the Necron tier called themselves, went for their catnaps.
Yeah, and they are, you know, they went to sleep for a long time. The Silent King left the universe. He went on a bunch of adventures. He basically gave up the power to control the Necrons. What's that called?
He turned off the control protocol. Yeah. Which basically meant that the Cesaric, the Silent King, held control over every Necron tier possible. He turned that control protocol off, got on his boat, went for a little sail. I've heard rumours and seen rumours of different places when he's gone to investigate where the Tyranids were coming from, for example, but he still pops up in the lore here and there. I don't think it's ever been fully confirmed by G-Dubs. If it has, please someone correct me, but I saw a rumour that him and him and Sanguinius met. Yeah. There are confirmed reports, it's even in one of the books, that he and Dante met in the Blood Angels trilogy, one of which is Devastation of Baal, which is highly recommended. In the book prior to this, which I think is, off the top of my head, is called Dante. Yeah, there's a book just about it. Got Dante and the Silent King and the Necrons working together on Cryptus to fight the Tyranids, because once the Tyranids are beaten, the Necrons just kind of go bye and just vanish. So they are around, but yeah, he just sails off and kind of lets the Necrons go to it, but they kind of agree, we're going to power nap for 60-70 million years, then we're going to wake up. But somewhere along the line, something seems to have gone wrong, that the Necrons are waking up earlier, and in some cases thousands of years earlier than expected. Now, a lot of the Necrons, it messes up their synaptic protocols really, really badly. Whole tomb worlds are destroyed and eradicated and just go, basically they just die because they've woken up too early. But you get the odd ones, such as our little friend Trazin, who, he's loving it. He's going around pillaging people, making his museum. He's loving life.
He really is. So we mentioned a couple of times in the video the Infinite and the Divine, which is, you recommended it to me, quite a few people recommended it to me. It was like, really, you know, because I'm getting into Necrons, I've obviously got some of my Necrons battling our Blood Angels on the table here. I will apologise for the fact that they you can't see any of them very well because they're base coated black at the moment. Well, they're kind of base coated black. Some of I ran out of paint halfway through on a small fucking side tangent. I did run out of paint halfway through, so some of them are still kind of grey. But
they've just crawled from the earth. They're just really dirty. That's all it is.
They're just really ashy. They need some fucking lotion. But they But yeah, so I've been listening to The Infinite Divine while driving to work recently and just driving about in general. And I gotta say, genuinely, just as a book, fantastic.
Really,
you will fall in love with Trazyn and Orokin because they're such bitches. They are so petty. It's honestly like having like a season of like RuPaul's Drag Race or some shit. Like they are so petty with each other, the stuff they do. There's one bit I gotta mention. I'm not gonna like do a full book review, although I might at some point. But there is one point I want to mention where Orokin is spending thousands of years meditating and studying the Mysterious, as he calls it, the Mysterious. And he just gets an alert after like 2,000 years that there's a meteor incoming. And it turns out the meteor is Trazyn, because he thought it'd be a good idea to ride a fucking meteor to his planet.
But he doesn't just ride one, he rides multiple.
Like 2,000 years later, yeah. Like it's honestly like it's a hilarious book. It gives you a really good look into like what the Necrons were kind of doing, like all the like what the few Necrons who didn't go to sleep were doing. Like Orokin and Trazyn woke up, I think, like 15,000 years before they were supposed to.
Yeah.
Because Trazyn, by the time you meet him, has already got a fairly decent sized collection. Yeah. But he's such an interesting character as the collector. He literally just goes and steals shit. Like, he'll just turn up to battlefields and just take people. And it's fully said in the book, you'll have like a squad of Marines fighting against an enemy. And then the next minute, they're somewhere completely different, facing down something they've never seen before. And that's what it feels like for them, because he just takes them, puts them in his vault.
It's even mentioned in there that a Trazyn showed up at Ispan 3.
Ispan 5. Drop Site Massacre.
Ispan 5. I would say Ispan 3.
They do.
And he took a load of Marines and just vanished, and it's in his museum.
He does mention, though, that his Horus Heresy section is fucking huge, because the Horus Heresy starts happening while he's, like, collecting and stuff. And, like, it's really funny that the Horus Heresy in real life is, like, what, like 57 books or 97 books or something like that. It's a massive amount of books. In The Infinite of the Divine, it genuinely only comes up in like one chapter.
It does,
and it's like a few lines about it, because they are such infinite beings that the Horus Heresy, I mean, how long did it last? What, like 15 years?
Something
the actual Heresy? It did like 7 years, 15 years, correct? It didn't last that long compared to like the whole length of the book is 10,000 years pretty much. And a lot of it is genuinely Orokin meditating, Trazyn trying to get in to kill him.
Or Orokin attacking his museum and Trazyn getting annoyed with him. It's just they're like a couple of brothers.
They are. I'm not going to do a whole backstory on it, but I might do a whole like bit of book review soon, because I do love the book. But I'd highly recommend, like, if you're trying to get into Necrons, great book to listen to. Really funny characters. Really funny, just dumb diplomacy with it all as well. Yeah. Trazyn and Orokin are hilarious. They really are like a pair of old wives with how they argue and bicker and stuff. It's like listening to like the Top Gear trio go at each other. It's just hilarious. And like, it takes a little getting into, I found at least. Like the first couple of chapters, you're getting hit with so much and it's jumping around timelines a lot. But after a while, when it really settles into the story, genuinely worth listening to. So yeah.
So, just to touch base rather now on where we're up to in the timeline with the Necrons when it comes to the current setting of the Warhammer 41st Millennium. I botched that bit, didn't I? 41st Millennium. Oh my god, sorry.
Can you tell we've been at work today?
I am tired. So, where we currently stand, we've got the Necrons that are gradually, as we said before, they are starting to wake up more and more. The biggest rise and the biggest centre for this is currently in the Nephilim sector, around what's being known as the Prior Nexus. Why this is quite a fundamental thing is the Nephilim sector is a region of space where there is literally no war, which is a perfect crossing point through the rift into Nihilus. Now, the Necrons being the Necrons are going in their best Gandalf impersonations, "You shall not pass!" And the Ultramarines are going, "We're the blue poster boys of Warhammer, you'll let us pass." And they just can't agree on anything. So now they're fighting. Anyone who is signed up to Warhammer Plus There is a great little episode which involves a salamander getting
I've seen so many clips about that. I keep meaning to watch it.
It's great, and the Ultramarines are involved, obviously. Ultramarines are involved. The guy gets turned to dust. It's really, really well done.
Sisters battle are in it as well.
Yeah, sisters, and the one last is a bit delusional and seeing guardsmen, and it is really, really well done. Those few episodes, but for that side of the lore, not a lot so far has come out. Gilliman makes reference to it a few times in the Dawn of Fire series. A couple of the historiators make reference to it. One of them in particular, one of the founding for the Historiator Order, is rather nervous that he's going to get sent over to the Prior Nexus, which you can't really blame him. It's meant to be a quite horrific war front. But it's Warhammer. Where isn't a horrific war front at this point in time? But other than that, the only other mention to do with the Necrons of note is in the Dawn of Fire series, which is supposed to be the most up-to-date lore of the 41st millennium, of the current setting in Warhammer. If you read or listen to or whatever any of the Dawn of Fire, that is where we currently are. On a side point, it's really frustrating the fact that G-dubs tell us this is the most current lore, but Gilliman hasn't even crossed the Nachman Gauntlet yet into Nihilus, and yet we have Primaris Dante, Primaris Blood Angels, and we have Lionel Johnson. But I digress, that's a rant for another day. So, the most recent book in the Dawn of Fire series is aptly called The Silent King. I've not got round to that yet. I'm currently re-listening on Audible while I paint to every single one of the Dawn of Fire novels in order. It was only released this year. I do plan on binge listening to as many of the books as I can to get to it sooner rather than later, so I'm hoping that might shed a bit more light on the wider universe, the Prior Nexus. It is mentioned on more than one occasion that Balisarius Core is trying to replicate the Necron pylons that were active on Cadia that helped keep the Eye of Terror in check, to stabilise the Great Rift, but also to provide better crossing points, because the crossing points that we know are active, because we know Gilliman has already crossed it, are not the safest and nicest ways. Think of the English Channel times a million. It's not safe, it's not nice. So hopefully these books will answer a bit more questions. Like, not even the Necron Codex mentions much when it comes to the Prior Nexus. So
it's more just like little short stories.
Yeah.
It's not like a whole load of lore, but we're big fans of, I'd like to say we're big fans of Necrons. I think I'm quite a big fan of Necrons. I'm collecting. They're really cool models. Like, have a look through some of the models. They're beautiful. I mean, they're fiddly as all to try and put them together, but they are really beautiful little models. There is some absolute units that hit like a truck in there. They're kind of like, we were talking about this earlier, they're kind of halfway between like a Horde army and like a Custodians, where they just hit ridiculously hard, because they have some models like the Silent King model hits like a truck. The Shard of insane model, Shard of the Deceiver, insane model, insane powers.
The Void Dragon,
Shard of the Void Dragon, insane model. Even things like, you know, I've got a Cryptomancer down there, he's stunning model. You know, the Canoptic Doomstalker. I mean, I put this next to, like, the Knight's a really cool model, but that is just a work of art with how detailed they are. They're really cool models. They've got a ton of units that you can look at. Like, they have a seriously impressive amount of units that you can get. They've got a load of melee, range, precision, vehicles, like the specialist characters is a mile long. And they're just really cool. And the lore around them is super cool. And again, like on the We Love series, we just like talking about armies that we find interesting, or bits of the lore we find interesting. And certainly the Blood Angels, I'd probably say for both of us, are our main army. But for me, definitely the reason I wanted Necrons was because the lore is so cool on them. There's so many amazing characters. It's super deep. They're probably, I genuinely, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn because I've not read all the books, but for me, the Necrons always feel like just behind Space Marines in terms of depth. I mean, you might get maybe, I don't know, you can't really count Chaos as like different. No. But like the majority of the books are about Space Marines.
They're just emo
and then Necrons for me. Like there is a lot of books about Necrons.
You could probably argue that there's a lot of information about Eldar, but I mean, just to make themselves noteworthy, they had to orgy a god into existence. I mean,
yeah, I find the Eldar a little bit boring to be fair, but we do love the Necrons.
Anyone that hunts gods just for fun and then takes a massive catnap afterwards has got my respect.
Yeah, I mean they literally are god killers. They are awesome. I do love them. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about the Necrons. You found a little bit more about why we like them, why they're interesting. Hopefully you might look into them a little bit more. I definitely think they're worth having a look into. Like I said, get the Infinite and the Divine on Audible and just listen to it in your car. It is a great time, super fun book. And just learn a little bit more about, our favourite Terminators from Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very, very highly recommended book, Audible, go for it. But anyway, I digress. Thank you all for watching and for listening. As always, thank you to our sponsors, the Shrewsbury Wargame Society, and to Mark and Timecast Models. And always for you guys, please like and subscribe, share our video, get us out there a little bit. We want to help people, try and get people into the hobby to join us in our love for it. If there's anything you would like us to talk about, to look into, go into more detail, please drop us a comment and let us know. But we've been Bloodhammer, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.